community safe from the impending storms that may be coming our way. And we also ask that you guide and direct all of our governmental leaders, whether they are at the national level, the state level, or the local level, so that all of our families and employers can enjoy the freedom and the economic benefits of living in the great United States of America. Please guide their decisions so we can share and know that this is the American dream. And we ask that you guide each of us today in making our decisions. And we thank you, as always, for our staff, for the wonderful job they do, and for keeping them safe. In the name of your Son, Jesus, we offer this prayer. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Calderwood. I will lead us in the pledge. I think you can see the flag behind Alan there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Suzanne, I believe you determined that we have a quorum. Suzanne? Suzanne, if that's you on a phone, if you dial, I think it's *6, it'll unmute.
I'm sorry, I was muted, but yes, we have a quorum.
Great, thank you very much. Meeting highlights, assume everybody had an opportunity to review those, and we need a motion to approve. If you'd say your
So moved by Bob Page.
So moves.
Thank you, Bob, for making the motion. Can I get a second?
Jerry seconds.
Thank you, Jerry. Any discussion on the highlights? All those in favor?
Carter, yes.
Aye. Good, yes.
Aye.
Jerry, yes.
Randy, yes.
Grace, yes. Anybody opposed? Okay, the meeting highlights are any citizens input, non-agenda items. Okay, I saw a few phone numbers I didn't recognize, so I didn't know if we might have a citizen on the line with us. All right. Airport Authority input, any non-agenda items? All right. Then we can go on and let's move on to an adoption of this agenda. Can I get a motion on that?
David Norton, motion.
Thank you, Dr. Norton. And a second?
Jerry will second.
Jerry Diedenbach, thank you for the second. All those in favor of the adoption of the agenda?
Carter, yes.
Opposed? And the agenda is adopted. We have a consent agenda item on here. I think we need to have a motion on that before we can begin to discuss.
So moved. Craig Carter.
Thank you, Craig. Can I get a second on the consent?
Bob Page,
agenda?
second.
Bob Page, thank you very much. Now open for discussion on the consent agenda, the airport liability insurance renewal. Anybody have any questions? All right, very good. Hearing no need for discussion, let's go ahead and get a vote on this. All those in favor of adopting the consent agenda?
Craig Carter, yes.
Yeah.
Jerry Diedenbach, yes.
Randy, yes.
David, yes.
Jean Calderwood, yes.
Grace, yes. Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, that has been taken care of. Motion carries. Moving on to Alan, if you want to tell us about the airport business, what's going on?
All right. Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome everyone. Good to see you all again. I think I'll start again just first with an update on what's going on as far as COVID-19 in the airport. I'll go as quickly as I can. Again, good news in that no GACRA employees have tested positive for the virus. None that we're aware of. We have a policy in place that anybody who is experiencing symptoms would be immediately sent home, and we would then test them and find out, who they might have come in contact with at that point. But we have not had to do that, and everything is fine. Also, there are no TSA outages due to COVID, and the airlines are not experiencing any labor shortages or problems. There have been positive cases on the airport, a couple of them, but none of them that have affected operations or have caused widespread concern. We continue to maintain our permanent staff. We're operating at a reduced number of contract workers. Our office employees are spending time between home and office, and that continues. We are continuing our enhanced efforts to maintain a safe and healthy facility to inspire passenger confidence. Right now, we've got good compliance in the terminal building with the mask ordinance. The airlines are requiring masks at their counters and on the airplane, and we're requiring masks within the terminal building. We also are encouraging this good behavior with signage and program PA announcements. American and Delta continue to provide masks for those passengers that may not have them, and the FAA has sent us 17,500 masks for that purpose. So most folks by this period are, very well equipped with masks, so it's not been an issue, but we do have a large stockpile in the event that anyone forgets theirs. Right now, as far as air traffic goes, our passenger enplanements have flattened. They've actually declined a little bit as the number of cases in Florida and around the country has gone up. Folks are opting out of flying is what, our belief is. So even though it is sort of our slow time of the year, the decline has been greater than what we would normally experience percentage-wise. Right now, Delta has 3 round trips to Atlanta. American has 2 to Charlotte and 1 to Dallas-Fort Worth. The Miami flights are still suspended. Our weekend schedules are somewhat reduced, but Saturday is generally the same as most weekdays. We are, a little bit concerned that things haven't continue to go in the right direction, but I think it's to be expected. Our decline is really tracking with the national decline, so nothing really unusual there. Post-COVID TSA screenings peaked at about 1,822 in week 30, and they've dropped to 1,594 in week 32. So that was down about 12.5% over the last 2 weeks. It's about 30% of the number of TSA screenings that we did this time last year. Nationally, TSA screenings are about 25% of 2019 levels. So there's a little bit, it's hard to compare nationally in our data because our employees or, Tailwinds employees going through screening as a percentage of total passengers can skew the numbers, but it's pretty close. Tailwinds is open. They're open for limited hot food service on the unsecured side. They're trying to open up in the mornings and for the lunch hour. And then they continue to be available out in the secured area for our departing flights. The CARES funding, we submitted our first reimbursement request of $318,000 under the CARES program, and that was for payroll expenses going back to about January 22nd. And we got that check this week, or got the EFT transfer. We're preparing another reimbursement for payroll of about $398,000. And we're also preparing reimbursements for items such as debt service and utilities and contract labor. Good news, right now, but the U.S. Senate at least has filed its version of a second round of COVID-related bailout funding called the HEALS Act. And that bill includes $10 billion for airports. The majority of the funds, $9.5 billion, would be distributed to commercial airports based on passenger enplanements, so not the formula that FAA screwed up so badly in the last CARES grant requests. It doesn't do anything to really make us whole from the first CARES grant, but it does limit those airports that receive more than 4 years of operating expenses under the first CARES from receiving any more money. So at least they're not going to compound the lopsided awards that they did the first time around. Looking at the current formula in the Senate bill, and we have no idea whether that's going to make it through both houses, we would get about 4.27 million under this proposed HEALS Act for airport funds. And those funds, again, in the current language, could be used for any legal expense that we would incur. So it would help with any capital purchase we would need to make or our operating expenses. And just to note that the FAA about a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, put out a letter, policy letter asking airports to pass along their CARES funding requests to those tenants that have been directly impacted by this drop in airline travel that we've all experienced. So, you know, and we've been doing that for our tenants in the terminal, as you've done in the previous board meeting. So, so that's pretty much it on the COVID-related stuff. And if you have no questions, I'll go into the regular project information items. And Suzanne's going to put up some photographs here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Something
okay.
they won't come.
Our photos won't display on WebEx, so I apologize for that. But it'll make it go quicker, I guess. Right now, the terminal work is really going full bore. Some of you have come out and seen the progress. The re-roofing work on the terminal is back on track. We are pretty much finished up with the re-roof on the front curbside canopy, and they're well into finishing up the baggage claim area, the work there. New partition walls near TSA, that work continues, and a new air handler has been installed up in the penthouse that's going to replace one of our rooftop units. So that air handler will be much better protected from the weather. As far as the gate area expansion, the structural steel is essentially complete, except for where we tie into the existing building. The roof deck is over the main sections. They've insulated the roof, and they're prepping the standing seam to go on the roof. The main internal ramp in the building is about ready to pour, and the lower floor is going to be poured next week. They're roughing in the plumbing in the building and the electrical and the fire alarm system. So all that work is ongoing. We hope to have the building dried in with storefront being installed over the next 2 weeks. Probably in a week to 2 weeks, they'll start work on that. On the east side, the foundation work for the existing restroom is finished essentially, except for where it ties in, and the cement block has been put up, and the structural steel there will follow.
Just a hairball.
All right, if you look on page 13, item 25, on the agenda later today is the award of the 2 passenger boarding bridges. We did submit our FAA grant agreement. And so we expect that we'll get a grant agreement for that one, hopefully earlier before the September normal date that we would receive that. Also on the agenda, we have refurbishing of the existing 3 boarding bridges, so I won't go into that too much right now. If you look on page 15 with our hangar rehab project, We finished up a couple little items over at the Joint Aviation Unit hangar. And we put some gutter and downspout on their modular office. On T Hangar A, that building is finished. We have all the tenants back in, and that was great because we needed to get them out before we could start relocating people out of T Hangar D. So T Hangar D, the contractor started working on the interior structural steel, prepping and painting that. But we kind of slowed that one down because of the approaching tropical storm. We didn't want to get a lot of metal panels taken apart and the roof off it with a major storm coming. So that work will start up again, hopefully on Monday. And that is essentially it on the construction projects for now. If you look at page 19, our tower operations are down, but not too much, about 1.6%. Fuel flowage for general aviation is down about 13%, with most of that being Jet A. And then airline Jet A is down about 84%. Military Jet A is down 67, 68%. So Debbie will have a report for you later, but the good news is some of our military has begun flying back in again and buying fuel. So July, hopefully we'll get turned around. If you look on page 23, you can see, you know, we do have the uptick in passenger enplanements for June. July may not be quite so good, but in the month of June at least, we were up, but we're still down 74% from June of the previous year. If you look on page 25, in terms of our load factors, you know, we've been all over the map on load factors, but Delta right now for the month of June was at 46.7%. To Atlanta, American to Charlotte, 62.3%, and American to Dallas at about 58%. So overall, about 55% load factors with a reduced schedule. You've probably seen a lot of airline news. All of the airlines are losing hundreds of millions of dollars, some over $1 billion in the last quarter. So, you know, it's been tough out there, no doubt. It'd be interesting to see what Congress does to help them and maintain their capacity and employment. If you look on page 26, our parking lot count dipped down. You know, we averaged earlier this week around 182 cars on the 27th, and that's been pretty flat up until today. So, you know, we are definitely seeing a little bit of a decline as the number of COVID cases goes up. And if you look at, I've already talked about TSA screenings, but you can see a graphic representation of that on page 27, where we peaked in, you know, several days ago, and we're continuing to go down. So. And that, Madam Chair, that's the information items. If you click on our box, is that?
Grace, can you hear us?
Grace, you may have to unmute yourself. There we go.
4 months of doing this and I still forget. Okay, so we're moving on to the finance report, please. Matt, are you here with us?
I am. Good afternoon. I'm here.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Turn to the middle of page 31. Total revenue for the month of June was approximately $368,000 as opposed to $564,000 budgeted, and that's $196,000 under budget. Most of that is from lower activity directly related to parking, landing fees, and various fuel accounts. The rest of it is from the discounts that we afforded the airlines and the rental car companies. Total expenses for the month were $357,000 as opposed to $443,000 budgeted, and that's $86,000 under budget. The net loss for the month of June was about $2,700, and that's $109,000 under budget for the month of June.
Does anybody have any questions for Matt? All right, we need a motion to accept the finance report.
So moved. David here.
Who was
Bob
that?
Page, second.
David Norton.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Norton. Thank you, Bob Page. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Craig Carter, yes. Gary, aye.
And Calderwood, yes.
Excellent. Grace, aye. Okay, any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much, Matt. Moving on, we have some resolutions to go over. Alan, if you want to walk us through those.
Yeah, sure. On page 33 is resolution number 20-007. This is for the award of the 2 passenger boarding bridges. It's recommended that we award to ThyssenKrupp of Texas, ThyssenKrupp Airport Systems. They were the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, the lowest bidder. Their bid for option 1A was $1,865,918. This is for the bridge with the included windows at the beginning of the bridge and at the end of the bridge, which was slightly more than one without windows. The project would be 90% funded from an FAA grant. The remaining 10% would come from our existing passenger facility charge program. And so we're asking that you award to ThyssenKrupp and give us the ability to sign a contract subject to FAA review and legal counsel review and receiving an FAA grant.
Thanks, Alan.
Question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I noticed in the bid talk, it was spoken that we were waiving the Built in America requirements or something. And I guess my question is, the next bid is $6,000 more. Is that something worth talking about?
The steel from the bridge is American made. There's going to be certain minor amount of components that were foreign made. We had run this by the FAA to make sure. I guess this is common with this particular manufacturer, and it's been waived in the past. If Bill Prang is on the line, he can give some information regarding the amount. I don't have it in front of me, but there are only two U.S. manufacturers of these bridges, and ThyssenKrupp does use a few components that are foreign made.
Hey, Alan, this is Bill. I'm on. The second bidder requires the same Buy American waiver. For both of the manufacturers, the steel components are manufactured in the United States, but certain drive motors and gear parts, some of them are foreign made as the only option. So it's like, I think it's like 6% of the materials are not available in the United States. And again, both manufacturers require the same waiver. This happens at every airport for every boarding bridge that the FAA pays for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Need a motion on this?
David Nornier moved that we adopt resolution 20-007.
Randy, Rudd, second.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Norton. And who was that second? Was that Craig Carter?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Craig. I believe this is a roll call vote, Suzanne?
That's correct. We'll start with Dr. Norton,
Yes.
Mr. Page,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas, Mr. Thomas. Let's see. Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mrs. Calderwood,
Yes.
Mr. Carter.
Yes.
And Mr. Conrad, have you joined us? Ms. Horvath.
Yes.
Oh, and Mr. Dienbach.
Give a thumbs up.
Okay, you did, okay. He's muted.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 4. Alan, if you'd like to walk us through that one, please.
Sure. This is resolution number 20-010. This is for award of a contract to AECom for the post-design construction phase services for the 2 boarding bridges. This would include looking at shop drawings, requests for information, submittals, going out to see the finished product or before it ships, and just general contract administration and professional services. The amount is not to exceed $99,000 and change. I had that number in front of me somewhere, but it's there. $99,613. And that would be subject to FAA approval and receiving an FAA grant. It, again, would be 90% funded by FAA and 10% from passenger facility charges.
Any questions for Alan? All right, we need to get a motion on this one, please.
Mr. Diedenbach moves to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Diedenbach. And who is the second?
Craig
Randy.
Carter.
Craig Carter, thank you. Suzanne, roll call.
Okay, Mr. Page,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas. Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mrs. Calderwood,
Yes.
Mr. Carter,
Yes.
Mr. Diedenbach,
Yes.
Dr. Norton,
Yes.
and Ms. Horvath.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Great, thank you so much. And Alan, moving on to number 5.
All right, this next resolution is 20-011, and this is for a contract award to Ameribridge for refurbishing of our existing 3 passenger boarding bridges. These bridges were put in around 2005 and do require a lot of work to keep them going for the next 10 years or so. We received 4 bids for this work. It would be fundable under the existing FDOT grant for terminal and parking improvements. The amount of the award would be $268,808. That would be 50% from FDOT and 50% from GACRA. And we had a number of line items in the bid. We've recommended that we do a number of those items in-house. We feel that our own staff can do a number of those things at a lower price. And we would still get FDOT assistance for our work for those parts and things that we replace. But so that's the amount of the award. It'd be subject to concurrence or subject to receiving the FDOT grant, which we have already in hand. So no problem there, but subject to legal counsel review. And as in all the resolutions, it would give me the authority for change orders up to 15%. So if we wanted to add some of those items back in that our own staff is doing, we're able to do that. You should have a
Alan,
copy also of the
Madam-
bid tab in your packet.
Does
Madam Chair-
anybody have any questions?
I'm sure I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Alan, are these more robust now? Because it seems like the wear and tear comes from two things. Comes from physical contact with them, probably from external surfaces, but the interior, because there's such a heat exchange on them, seems to really wreak havoc on the construction materials inside. They fuzz out, the carpets get in terrible shape, the ceiling gasket seems to tear apart. Are they better?
Are they better than they used to be years ago? Is that
Yes.
essentially? I think so. Yeah, just in all things, materials, newer materials, doesn't mean that they're the best engineered product out there, passenger boarding bridges, and, in terms of the, some of the progress we've seen in automobiles and things like that. But a lot of the electronics, I think, are better than they were not too long ago. I like the old electromechanical stuff. That seems to be bulletproof. But in any event, they take a heck of a beating out here in the Florida sun, especially the rubber parts and vinyl parts, and a lot of foot traffic for sure. So this will help us with the vertical drives, which is really a big ticket items that need to be, that we need to replace and do some work on. And some of the bearings, we replace bearings and things like that, and sprockets and chains, and we're going to continue to do some of that was in the bid. But the other items, yeah, it's best that someone else. And a lot of it is the corrosion issues that we have, getting the steel prepped and primed and painted and getting everything protected better.
Thank you.
All right. This is another one.
Well, with that, Madam Chair, would you like a motion to approve?
Yes, please.
You may have it. So moved.
David Norton here, a second.
Thank you, Dr. Norton. Suzanne?
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mrs. Calderwood,
Yes.
Mr. Carter,
Yes.
Mr. Diedenbach,
Yes.
Dr. Norton,
Yes.
Mr. Page,
Yes.
Ms. Horvath.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, we're going to call this Resolution Thursday. Would you like to move on to number 6, Alan?
Madam Chair, this is resolution number 20-012. This is additional FDOT funding that is going into the existing grant for terminal improvements and parking lot funding. That's an additional $250,000, and that's grant 438739-1. And this is the grant from which most of our non-federal funded terminal improvements would be coming from. Would be subject to legal counsel review, and also we would not amend or change the grant with a GACRA share of more than $25,000 without additional board approval.
Okay, any questions for Alan? All right, we need a motion.
David Norton here, a motion to approve resolution 20-012.
Thank you, Dr. Norton. And that was that Craig?
Yes.
Thank you, Craig. We have this motion and a second. Suzanne?
Okay, we'll start at the top of the batting order here with Mrs. Calderwood,
Yes.
Mr. Carter,
Yes.
Mr. Diedenbach,
Yes.
Dr. Norton,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
and Ms. Horvath.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Great. Well, moving on. Thank you very much for the reports and the explanations, Alan. We're going to go on to our tenant report. I believe that Debbie's here with us.
I am. Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. We are in the process of installing a new generator over at the FBO. This will power the entire FBO should we encounter a loss of power due to a storm or Anything else? We have been working on this since December of last year, so it's been quite a process getting the permits done and working with not only our contractors. We had to get a gas line installed, and we're looking at I guess we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we anticipate that will be done in the next 2 weeks. So that's a great enhancement to the FBO, and certainly will help should we ever have a power loss. It's insurance renewal season for us, so we are in the process of projecting how 2020 financial performance will be, and then projecting 2021. So I am giving my crystal ball quite a workout. We got the news day before yesterday that the PPP loans, I don't know if any of you have these, they're going to be treated as ordinary income if they're forgiven, but you are not able to use any of the expenses that they were required to cover. You cannot use those as business deductions. So you just have to pay taxes on that. And that was not exactly how it was presented initially. So that's impacted that project. But it's always a great exercise to go through that. Alan mentioned the fuel sales. We look at that weekly, if not a couple of times a week. And we've seen now that across the board, fuel sales from UAC are down about 50%. It seems that we have leveled off from the recovery trend that we were seeing. And near as we can figure, we attribute that to the fact that the university is still closed. And we see a number of pilots tankering fuel rather than buying fuel. I did report that we anticipated military coming back, and they have. We have had Blackhawks on the ramp almost every day for the last 2 weeks. In fact, there were 2 on the ramp when I drove over here to this meeting. We're still working to get the T-45 trainer program back. We haven't seen any T-45s. Tailhook was canceled. That's usually a September trade show. So we have been reaching out to squadrons directly and trying to continue keeping those relationships strong. We met this morning to strategize about ramp fees versus fuel minimums and try to come up with some creative ways that we could convince people to opt to buy fuel as opposed to pay a flat ramp fee. And so we're going to be introducing a couple of new things starting tomorrow. We continue to focus on extraordinary customer service. We did get a really nice note from a pilot, when someone takes time to send an email, and he commented that one of our CSRs really went above and beyond to help with a rental car situation. And he purposely saved room in his plane and purchased 375 gallons of gas just as a way to say thanks. So the pilots know that we're, looking to sell fuel, and they're wary of that. We're hoping that the military continue to come back. We've worked our way to court them, and that we see this, this level off, we start to go back up, but we're also just being cautious about that. And that's what's going on over at the FBO. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Thanks for sharing that story. Well, is there any further Airport Authority input? All right, and we've all seen the attendance report, which is looking good. So I would say with that, we can go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 4:44. Thank you so much. It was great to see everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Everyone. Good time, Madam Chair. Good job.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Stay safe.